welcome to the conversation. Welcome to my video journal. I'm Steffanie Rivers. Come on in. Happy Valentine's Day to you, as a matter of fact. I hope you're feeling loved, and especially I hope you're loving yourself. Come on into the conversation. If you are just joining the conversation, or if you're new to the conversation, I want to welcome you. If you are rejoining the conversation, I want to welcome you back. I'm Steffanie Rivers, and this is my video journal. I also do a written portion of this journal, and I post it on eurweb.com. So come on in, kings and queens, while we get started. Just trying to send out some messages. I'm TriCasting on YouTube, on my YouTube page, on LinkedIn, and on Facebook Live. So you can catch it on any one of those platforms, and you're welcome to join in the chat. And if I don't reach you immediately, it's because I'm not able to see all of the chat information. But I know you're probably planning something big for today. So I just want to talk with you a short while. So again, I'm Steffanie Rivers. You're watching my video journal, and welcome, welcome. So I want to ask you guys this. Do you know who Ron Stallworth is? Who is Ron Stallworth? Well, recently, I was speaking with a woman, and she told me she lives in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And during the conversation, I asked her if she was living in Colorado Springs during the time that Ron Stallworth was working at the Colorado Springs Police Department. So you might have realized it, or you might have known this already before the movie BlacKkKlansman, or maybe you didn't. But essentially, when she told me that, because I just expected that she probably knew who he was since she was living in Colorado Springs. And so that's why I asked her, were you there when he was the first African-American detective to work at the Colorado Springs Police Department? And she said she had no idea who Ron Stallworth is. So then I asked her if she had seen the movie BlacKkKlansman. Now, it's a couple of years old, but of course, BlacKkKlansman is the award-winning movie directed by Oscar winner Spike Lee, Oscar director Spike Lee, and it was about the movie adaptation of Ron Stallworth's book about his life. He was highlighted, he was praised because he infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan in Colorado by pretending to be a white person. They gave him a white supremacist. They gave him a membership, and he was able to help bring down the power structure of the Ku Klux Klan in Colorado and nationally. And he wrote a book about it. And so I was asking her, did she know about him? She said no, she didn't know about Ron Stallworth, and she did not watch the movie BlacKkKlansman. She said because she tries to stay away from things that have a negative message, makes her sad, those types of things. So I told her that although there were parts of the movie that might make you angry, as I was, and probably you, and might make her sad, as probably you, because parts of it made me sad. I said the movie is worth going to see because it is a part of Black history. It was a celebration of the achievements of an African-American man. And it was a movie by African-American director. These are all the reasons why she might want to go see the movie. And so while I was not going to say this when I initially started, I will say I think her lineage is Asian, and she's part African-American, part Asian. So that's why, I was having this conversation with her. And so and I'm telling you this for a reason. So just stay with me. Now, she promised to seek out the movie after we had our conversation. And so then later on, I saw her, and then she talked about how she was in her hotel room. She had just seen the ending part of Harriet, the movie. And so then I asked her, had you not seen Harriet? And now, of course, Harriet was the movie about Harriet Tubman, the abolitionist who helped to free slaves by taking them from the southern United States to the north, to the freed states, and some of them on into Canada, and over 700 slaves. And right now, she's the subject of putting her picture on the front of the $20 bill. And so I was asking this young woman, so had you not seen the movie Harriet? Even though there are mixed reviews, most people at least wanted to see the movie. And so she said, for the same reasons, that she had not seen all of Harriet, but she was going to seek it out. And so that's when I tried to explain to her in the most compassionate way, that without bashing her over the head, because, sometimes when we know something and we know facts, or we have we're emotional about our history, our African American history, we tend to come across too strong to someone who might not be as passionate about it. And so it's all in how you say something, not necessarily what you say, but how you say it. And so I tried to explain to her in the most compassionate way that we as African Americans, we as Black people in America, cannot afford to turn a blind eye to the smallest of racist acts, or even the most egregious acts. We have to be on our game 24/7. We got to be in the game. We got to have our head on a swivel. We got to be on the battlefield. You have to be ready to attack racism at every turn. And so your action to attack racism or to attack insensitivity might not be what I would do, but we all have a role to play. Whether you have children in your life and you want to show them the right way to act and respond, whether you are on the job, whether you are at the grocery store, whether you are a politician, whether you are a pastor, whether you're just you're a community activist, there's always a role to play in this. So that's why when I read about the Montessori school in North Ogden, Utah, that allowed parents to opt their children out of Black History Month events and Black History curriculum, that's why I felt like I had to act, because white parents in that instance said that they wanted to opt their children out of Black History Month events at the school and Black History Month curriculum at the school, because they said along the lines of the curriculum was too serious for their children to participate, or it wasn't pertinent to their children for them to learn it. This is a prime example of racial insensitivity, and it's a prime example of, if you give a racist an inch, that racist is going to take a mile. If you give insensitivity an inch, insensitivity is going to go further, and you can't ignore it. So let me, in case you haven't heard about this story, I'm going to put the link down here for you. And if you're just joining the conversation, you're watching my journal. I'm Steffanie Rivers, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe. So again, this is an example of when people are apathetic, when they are insensitive to another culture, another group, this is how racism starts. So, in case you haven't heard, again, click the link. But apparently, this is it's a Montessori school. It's Mariah Montessori in North Ogden, Utah. Okay, so that might tell you a little bit about why they might have felt like that they didn't have to learn about African American history or Black history. One, because the city is 95% white, so it's 5% other, and that other includes African Americans, Asian Americans, Native Americans. And so maybe they felt like there's just so little of Black people in here that I don't have to care. That's racial insensitivity that leads to racist behavior. So apparently, this publicly funded Montessori school is rich. Is where rich upper middle class people send their children. It is a charter school, so it's publicly funded, but it's a charter school. And so there, out of the 300 students, only 3 are Black. But let me tell you this, if my student is one of those Black students, I would have a problem with it. I don't even have kids at the school, and I got a problem with it. So essentially, maybe they thought that nobody would call them on that BS, but I'm here to call them on it, as well as the local media called them on it. And so that's why we're talking about it. Some of the white parents complained about their children having to participate in the Black History Month events. The school administrator, under pressure from the students, emailed an opt-out letter saying, if you don't want your students to participate, like, heads up, it's Black History Month. We're going to have some Black History Month events and curriculum. And if you don't want your students to participate, you can sign this letter and send it back and opt out. White parents started sending signaturized letters so their children could opt out. And so that's when the local media got involved. So the school director, after it became, after they got in the spotlight, that's when everybody now had a different view of what they were doing behind closed doors. So that's what happens. If you it's like cockroaches in the dark. They'll run around, but when you cut those lights on, they start scattering. We all done seen a roach or two. Anyway, my point is that if you let insensitivity breed in the dark, every little step of the way, they get stronger and they feel more empowered. So you got to turn the lights on and let them know, look, not only do I see you, but the rest of the world sees you, and we're not going to stand for it. So when the local media got a hold of it, and they started asking the academy, is called Montessori Academy. When the academy director was asked about it, then the academy director started, backpedaling about, oh, this is just terrible that parents would want to opt out of this. But here's the thing. If you're the director, you're the one who sent out, or at least should have known that a letter was being sent out to the effect of allowing them to opt out. So now all of a sudden you're just so appalled that parents would do this. That's one thing. And here's another thing about the director. His name is Micah Hirakawa. He is a Japanese American or Asian American. Let me just say Asian American, because I'm not sure if he's Japanese, but I assume he's Japanese because he went on to say that his grandparents were detained in internment camps during World War II. And Japanese Americans during the Battle of Iwo Jima and the attack on Pearl Harbor, that was all about America versus Japan. And so that's what leads me to believe he's Japanese American. That's why I said that. So essentially, he went on to say, Mr. Hirakawa, that his grandparents were interned, were detained, and so he feels like inclusiveness is a must in America. So why would you then allow, why is it a question? Why is it an option for Black History Month? But you feel like finding out about your history and your lineage is a must. But when it comes to our Black history, that's an option. That's the first thing. And so after that, then it becomes a question of why were they allowed to opt out? Well, upon further research, the State Board of Education in Utah, they do allow some opt out. They allow parents to opt out of different things from the curriculum. Them to opt their children out of certain curriculum, but based off of religion, based off of other issues that they might have a problem with. But social studies is not one of those things, those pieces of the curriculum that they can opt out of, according to the State Board of Education in Utah. Black History Month is taught under social studies. So that wasn't an option, and it was against regulations for them to be able to opt out. So that is another thing. But I wonder if, when you look at the racial makeup of Utah, there's not a lot of African Americans there. It's mostly Mormon religion. And so I wonder how Mormon, okay, somebody continues to text me, sorry. I wonder how Mormons would feel if parents started opting out of the curriculum because they're not Mormon and they don't want to learn nothing about Mormon because they don't think it's important for them to learn. I wonder if another set of a group of people that felt like, you know what? We feel like we want you to learn about us just so you can know about our history. I wonder if everybody had the option to opt out of everything, who would we have in class at that point? So the accomplishments, I'm saying all this to say that when the accomplishments of African Americans are in general underappreciated, specifically by white people, because white people ignore the importance of what we have done to develop the United States of America. They ignore our contributions in creating inventions and the advancements of health and medicine and technology. And that's why being a part of Black History Month is important, because during those times, if no other month, which it shouldn't be just relegated to 1 month, but it is, because we want to focus on our accomplishments, and we want not just for us to praise ourselves, but for other groups of people to realize the importance and the contributions and what we have contributed to the development of this country and around the world. And when you tell your students, when you tell your children and you tell students, oh, this doesn't apply to you, or you don't have to learn that, this is how insensitivity starts, because they feel like that's not important enough for me to learn. And then when they see things happening in their community, they become desensitized to it because it's happening to those people who don't matter in the first place, because I didn't have to learn about them because they don't bring any value to my society and to my world. That's the underlying message that we give when we allow things like opting out of Black History Month, white people. And this goes back to, they become see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil monkeys. And they feel like, oh, that's just bad stuff happening to those people, and I don't want to deal with that, or I don't have to deal with that. So when they see police brutality against unarmed Black people in the street, They think it doesn't have anything to do with them. When they see prejudice on jobs and in schools, when they see people being bullied because of their gender, their race, their nationality, when they see unfair practices at work, then they turn a blind eye because they were taught that they didn't have to care. And so that's why it's important, because we need everybody to care. We need everybody to care so they can point out and they can see when racial insensitivity, when legalized genocide is happening, they see it and they can identify it and they can put feelings to it and they can put actions to it and behavior to what they see. And they won't have to question, well, was that really this? Or was he just not doing what the police officer said, so he got shot? Come on now. So that's why it's important for students to learn the education fundamentals. It's not just about reading, writing, and learning how to put together a sentence and learning how to public speak. It's about learning racial sensitivity. It's about learning to coexist with people who don't look like you, but realizing along the way, we have more similarities than there are differences, but learning to appreciate the cultural differences and learning to celebrate those differences so everybody feels appreciated and valued in society, especially when some of us are taking the labor of these people, the resources from these people, and making money off of it. So they're valuable enough for you to make money off of, for them to be your employees, for you to put them in a position where you take all their worth from their community, but then you don't see the value in them when it comes to humanity. Come on now. So that's why it's important, when you see insensitivity, you face it head on, because it's going to turn into racial insensitivity. It's going to turn into some type of bigotry along the way if it is allowed to grow. So we most of the time we have to realize that we have more in common than we have differences. So again, if you are, whether you're new or whether you are returning, please like, share, and subscribe to my journal so that when I post on Sundays, mostly on Sundays, you will get the information and you'll be the first to know. And so here's what normally happens if racial insensitivity is allowed to, let's talk to the parents who don't feel like your children need to be exposed to things. They grow up and they become and they feel like they're entitled. They feel like they're better than other people. They feel like they just become insensitive and they become pompous assholes, basically. They think the world revolves around them, regardless of what's going on with everyone else. So when they get to high school, or when they get their first job, or when they move out of the neighborhood where it's 95% white people and they have to get in the real world where they might not be the majority, because the world is slowly browning, the browning of America. That's by Stephen Stout, book called The Browning of America. I suggest you read that. I'm going to put into the chat, read The Browning of America by Steve Stout. That's another Black history note. Steve Stout, he started out in the record industry, music industry, being a music manager, then became a producer, and he was very instrumental in helping a lot of people to in the industry to build their careers. So be sure to get that book. Now, here's why that's important, because when you're a white student, white child, when the white people get out of their little enclave of whiteness that I guess these people in North Ogden, Utah are living in, and they go somewhere else where they're not the majority, or where they have to coexist with people who don't look like them, then they won't make the mistake of thinking that they can just say anything and do anything and behave any way and not be called on their BS. For example, in South Lake, Texas, at South Lake High School in the past year or so, there was a white student who approached a black student telling a joke. The joke went like, "How do you get the black out of a tree?" The answer was, "You cut the rope." And they thought that was a joke that a black person would laugh at, or anybody would laugh at. That's racial insensitivity. So when the school board at South Lake High School or the school board in South Lake, Texas, tried to address it by incorporating racial sensitivity classes or putting that as a part of the curriculum, white parents got so upset, so outraged, saying, "We don't need that. We don't want that." But your students, your children are on video taping themselves saying the N word over and over and over and over, singing a song, doing a rap over and over, N word, all of this. And they thought, "Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's okay." Because their parents probably are the same people who opted them out of some Black History Month or some racial sensitivity training early in life. And now here they are about to be faced with it head on. And who knows how people are going to react when they see that. But an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If we stop racism head on, then we won't have to address the fact of what happens when racial insensitivity happens. So it seems to me that the real problem in these days is with parents, because parents are in charge of creating, building, raising, nurturing productive citizens in our society where they coexist with everybody. But it seems like a lot of parents are so hell bent on not acknowledging that there are other people besides them, that they pass it on to their children. And then we get people trying to opt out of Black History Month, as well as other things. And since it is Black History Month, and many white people probably haven't looked at anything, but they do look at social media. And if you made it this far, white people, here's a Black History note that I want you to add and maybe share with your students, your children who are on social media. You might have heard of the Gorilla Glue girl, the woman, and actually she's a 40-year-old woman in Louisiana who made the mistake of putting Gorilla Glue on her hair. It's a hardware adhesive. In fact, I used it the other day to put something to stick my little jewel back on my glasses or something. But anyway, she put it on her hair trying to lay her hair down. See, I don't have that problem. But she put it on her hair trying to lay her hair down, and it would not, she couldn't remove it from her hair even after like 30 days or something after washing and trying. So anyway, her name is Tessica Brown. That's her government name, from Louisiana. And thanks to a Black man, plastic surgeon from Beverly Hills, Dr. Michael Obeng, Obeng, look him up. He is a chemist by trade, and he came up with a solution, an actual chemical solution to remove the Gorilla Glue from her hair. Well, you might say, well, why didn't she just call the Gorilla Glue people? Well, first of all, I know they saw the videos because a million other people saw the video, and they did respond and say, we're so sorry, Tessica. And I think that when she did contact them, they really didn't go into a lot of, and then Dr. Obing said when he contacted them, they were not as helpful as he thought they would have, should have, could have been to help him to come up with a solution. But I mean, a chemist, that's what chemists do. The same chemist that created Gorilla Glue, he's a chemist and he can uncreate Gorilla Glue in her hair. So that's what this black man did, this black plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills. They flew her down there. Dr. Obing did the surgery. It was 4 hour surgery. It would have cost her $12,000 for that surgery. But Dr. Obing charged her zero for that surgery. And so, in case you stop looking at it after you maybe stopped laughing at her or stopped giving her sympathy, you turned off TikTok and didn't pay attention. The end of the story is Dr. Obing was able to remove the Gorilla Glue from her hair, and she is now Gorilla Glue free, and she was able to save her hair. And so that is the Black History footnote of this story. There, we are vast, we are smart, we are talented, and we are valuable to society. So I just want to say that it is important for all of us to be open-minded when it comes to valuing the achievements of people who look like us and especially who don't look like us. Because when we are open ourselves up to the full picture, then we can move forward together. We can move forward in strength because divide and conquer is how most people die out and are conquered. And so don't be a see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil person. Be somebody who attacks racism, attacks social insensitivity, racial insensitivity, that doesn't just sit there and think, well, if I turn away, then it won't happen or it's not happening, because it is happening. Happens every day. So do your part, figure out what you can do. And so that's it, Mom. Gotta get ready to go. But I appreciate you being here. So again, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that the next time I post, you'll be the first one to know. And to find out more about the things that I care about, you can go to, I'll put it in here, go to beyourweb.com to find out more about the things that I care about. Thanks, and have a super day. Mwah, mwah.